Hello, my name is Marcelo Wallau, Forage Extension Specialist at the University of Florida, and we're here today at Shenandoah Dairy in Suwannee County, Florida, to take a look at our Cool-Season Forage Variety Trial 2022-2023. This trial is sponsored by the Milk Checkoff program and was planted in collaboration with my colleagues, Dr. Cheryl Makoviak and Dr. Ann Blunt. So every year we come to some of the dairies, especially in the northern region of Florida, to test some of our new and proven varieties of cool-season forages. And it's fantastic to see how perform year after year, what are the new diseases that are breaking in and breaking the resistance, and also how the new varieties are performing compared to the old proven ones. This site here has been planted about 90 days ago, so it was a little bit later compared to the other three sites we had planted. December 1st was planted. Today is March 1st, so we're fixing to have our field day here tomorrow to show our producers some of our best varieties and some of the work we're developing in terms of forage breeding and forage management for cool season forages for the dairies in our state and also surrounding states. So it's very exciting to see what we have here, and we're going to take a look to these specific varieties and talk a little bit about each one and what they represent. Also bring you some numbers to show how the performance of those varieties have been this year. This year was very interesting because we came from a quite warm and dry October, November, and early December into a very cold period of time in December. If you remember, just to recap, between Christmas and New Year, we have 4 or 5 days where temperatures plumbed to below 20s, some days into the lower 10s, and the max was not more than 45 Fahrenheit throughout the day. So it was very cold. This location here did not suffer much. We don't see a lot of damage from cold weather. But if you look into the other two locations, in one of the locations, Full Circle, for example, the oats are completely dead. At the White Oak Dairy, we didn't lose the oats, but they really took, the cold weather really took a toll and set those oats back. So it's fantastic to see how they're performing here in the difference between varieties. So let's go and take a look at our Cool Season Variety Demonstration, or Cool Season Variety Trials 2022-2023.
So let's take a quick look at our variety trial here. And as always, we start with the earliest materials, both between the species, and then within the species there is many varieties that we're trying. As mentioned, this was planted 90 days ago, 3 months ago, and there is quite a lot of growth, and these plots are getting ready to harvest. Let's start with our earliest material from all, which is Florida 405 rye. Many of you are familiar with the Florida 401 rye. This comes to replace it. It has much better leaf to stem ratio, and we are betting on this one to be a major component for our dairy farmers. Next to it, there are two later varieties that on long season they do produce well, but not on the short season as much. We have Kelly Grazer 3, also a UF variety. We have Rinse Abruzzi and Elbon, probably two of the most known materials in terms of rye and most widely planted there. Elbon is especially later, and because it's an older variety coming from out west. The second earliest materials we have are the Triticale. Here we have two examples of Triticale. The first one is Triticale 342, quite well known and frequently used by our dairy farmers and beef cattle farmers. And on the center right of the video here, we have Florida 08128, which is also a newer variety. Comparison, we had another variety that came out from out west called Frage, and you can see that it does not produce as well in our region, and it's quite late, and you can see some uneven flowering, which is not ideal for what we're looking for. Our next two plots here are wheat. First one is AGS 2024, and the second one is Grazer Max. You can see that wheat, compared to our other cool season small grains, it's just not as productive in our region. So interesting for some people that can be insured, but not really a great option for what we want here. Our next plots here are black oat. There are two experimental varieties, UF5 and UF10. And those were not affected by the cold weather, the cold spell that we had between Christmas and New Year that I talked before. And you can see that they are performing quite well here in this location. Next in line, we have our oat varieties. We had some, this is regular oat. Our earliest one, and one of the favorite by the dairymen because it's so early, is Legend 567. You can see here, it's 3 months in and already putting some seed heads out. Most of it is in the flag stage. Very high quality, good tolerance to rust and other diseases, and one of our preferred. And the other oats we have here are Horizon 306, Horizon 720, Juggernaut, which is also producing well, is a new release from UF, has good grain production as well. It's a little later than Legend. And Cocker 227, probably one of the most used by our farmers, is the last variety here on the oat section. And then we're transitioning to the ryegrasses. As you know, ryegrass is much late. Early ploid is the earliest one, and you can see here quite taller than the other varieties of ryegrass, but in general ryegrass is going to be a later option for production, more in the months of March and April, many times used by our beef cattle farmers. Following early ploid, we had Big Boss and Frostproof, Jumbo, and the last one is Gold. Frostproof was one of our highest producing materials, and it's also a diploid type. It's a very exciting, very interesting variety produced here by the University of Florida also. We also decided to add some legumes this year. We have 3 legumes being tested here, 3 winter peas being tested. First one is Icicle, second one is Keystone, and the third one is Austrian Common. Very interesting to look into those legumes as a monoculture, and later on we're going to see them as mixed with rye and triticale. The last of the monocultures here are the vetches. We have common vetch in the left and Auburn merit in the right, both very productive and very nice. And last we have 4 plots here where we added legumes and small grains to take a look at the mixtures and how they were working. The first one is Icicle Winter Pea with Florida 405 rye. You can see that there is the rye also here is flowering. There is a lot of biomass, and you can look inside the canopy, and you can see the Icicle Winter Pea. And then we have Icicle Winter Pea with Triticale 342 in our second mixture here, lagging a little behind compared to 405, but also very, very productive. Those mixtures are interesting because they can improve the quality, the value of the forage being raised, and also because of the high nutrient content of those legumes and the amount of nitrogen they can uptake, they also can be used as remediation for areas where we have high nitrogen concentration through the center pivot, through wastewater irrigation. Our last plots here are the same thing as before, but instead of winter pea, we have hairy vetch.